The Youngevity UK and Europe Show with Dr. Wallach.
Hi, my name's Jonathan Smith. Welcome to the Youngevity UK and Europe Show with Dr. Wallach. Each week we'll go through the Dead Doctors Don't Lie show and handpick information regarding people's specific health concerns. So listen now as Dr. Wallach gives his expert advice on how to deal with the root cause of illness and disease nutritionally. If you would like further information on the products recommended in the show, they can be found in the description below the video. Enjoy the show.
The Youngevity UK and Europe Show.
I need to take just a little bit of time here and tell our background why Youngevity is so different than any other nutrition company. Okay? Well, that goes back. Let's just start out. I graduated high school in 1958. I already knew that nutrition was an important thing because I'd healed myself of some terrible things. That's another story. By taking vitamins and minerals, by the time I graduated high school, I already knew how important supplementation was. 1958, went to agricultural school at the University of Missouri in Columbia, Missouri, and my major was in animal husbandry and nutrition. My minor was in field crops and soils. And then kind of halfway through, I was wrestling for the University of Missouri also, and of course they had all the athletes isolated in special barracks and so forth. And my roommate, Richard, he was going to go and test to see if he can get into veterinary school. He invited me to come along with him. I said, well, I didn't come here for that. I said, come on. So I went with him, and sure enough, got into veterinary school too. So I started in veterinary school 1960, okay, and 2 years into ag school. And I couldn't afford everything anymore, my tuition and everything, and room and board and so forth. And so I began to work at the pathology department, helping with autopsies and so forth. And Christmas of 1962, everybody was off on holidays. I was a new guy on the block, so I was there doing all the autopsies of my own and so forth. Ran into the first mass die-off in America from pollution, got it published, got it figured out, and got it published in 2 scientific journals. Nobody was going to be a co-author with me because all the professors were gone. They said, no, this is yours, Wallach. So that was my first paper. I was 22 years old. It was like crazy. Okay, I gave copies to senators and governors and congressmen and judges, and also Marlon Perkins from the old Mutual of Omaha Kingdom show, because he and I had worked together. I had worked for him, so to speak, in the zoo when I was a kid. And so I gave him a copy and graduated 2 years into my, 2 years into my degree, okay, in veterinary medicine, okay, in 1964, and I was 2 years into my degree in pathology. Went to Iowa State University to finish my pathology degree, and 1 year into it, Perkins sends me a letter, said, look, using your paper on the mass die-off and pollution, I got a $25 million grant from the National Institutes of Health to study pollution, okay, and I want you to be involved. But before we get started there, it's going to be 6 months or a year before, I actually get the money. And so I need you to go to Africa and work on the White Rhino Conservation Project. I can't refuse Perkins. So I went to Africa, and I'm prepared to stay in Africa forever. After 2 years, I caught 200 white rhinos, shipped them back to the States. So if you see a white rhino in a wild animal park or a zoo, it's either one that I caught or Australians one that I caught. Well, 2 years into the African thing, Perkins sends me another letter. He says, okay, I got the $25 million. I need you to come back. We're going to be at Washington University in St. Louis. You can finish up your pathology degree, but we have to study pollution. Can't refuse Perkins. So I came back. And again, to make a long story short, finished up by 1977, came back from Africa in April of 67, so 10-year project, did 20,000 autopsies, some 17,000, some change of over 454 species of zoo animals in the big zoos around the United States, and 3,000 people who lived in close proximity to the zoos. I couldn't find anybody, any humans or any animals that died of pollution. And I didn't find any genetic diseases in all these zoo animals and didn't find any genetic disease in all these human problems. And so my thesis is in the Smithsonian Institute as a national treasure because I found that there were no genetically transmitted diseases, no genetically transmitted birth defects. And along with Bruce Lipton, a guy who studies identical twins that are separated at birth, okay, and follows up on them, he and I are considered the 2 fathers of the science of epigenetics, where it's environment and nutrition as opposed to genes that control your life, which is quite true. Okay? Well, to make a long story short, 1977, I was working in Atlanta, Georgia, for the medical school pathology lab at Emory University. Okay, Great Memorial Hospital. I was also working for NASA at their Yerkes Primate Center as a pathologist, and found the first non-human case of non-human case of cystic fibrosis supposed to be the genetic disease of humans, and of course it wasn't. And they fired me when I told them it wasn't. I said, I saved frozen tissues and blood and everything so you can check it out yourself. Nope, you're fired. And to make a long story short, went back to school, became an naturopathic physician in 1982, and began to use all these things that I knew about reversing and saving people from all these diseases. Okay, so that's how all this got started. Well, along the way, I also learned that the CO2 going up in the air has nothing to do with fossil fuels. That was also a false theory. Okay, the CO2 going up in the air is because we've shut off the food supply to the algae in the oceans that actually eat carbon dioxide and feed the volcanic polyps that make the volcanoes grow. So when you cut off the food supply to these algae, they're not very healthy, and so the polyps can't grow and make the reefs, and that's why all the reefs are dying. That's why the ocean's dying. That's why the carbon dioxide is going up, because we have 1 million dams around the world damming up the river to make electricity. It's the electricity that's causing the problem, not fossil fuels. We have 2 million dams damming up rivers for water preservation and for irrigation.
The Youngevity UK and Europe Show with Dr. Wallach.
Thanks for listening to this week's show. If you're listening on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, and for more info on the products mentioned in this week's show, check out the links in the description.